This mother rushed home to respond to her husband's call, only to discover that the latter shot their 2 daughters and committed suicide. Listen as she cries for help, begging officers to rescue her angels.
911?
Please, come here, now!
Where do you need help at?
St. Charles.
Where in St. Charles?
Oh my God, my husband shot my kids.
Okay, I need to know where you are. I can help you, but I need help.
Oh my God!
Ma'am, where are you at?
Oh my God, please. My God,
What would you do if one day you went home and saw your daughter's cold, lifeless bodies in a pool of blood? Today, on Crime Diaries, we head to St. Charles, Chicago to explore the case of Brittany and Tiffany Coffland. Brittany and Tiffany Coffland, aged 16 and 17 respectively, lived with their father, Randall Coffland, in St. Charles, Chicago, Illinois. The family had experienced a tumultuous history marked by domestic violence and strained relationships. Onyem Coffland and her husband, Randall Coffland, had separated in 2012 and later divorced. Following the divorce, the girls lived primarily with their mother, while Randall had visitation rights. Just a month before the murders, Onyem and Randy made what she describes as a mutual decision to separate. It was a long time coming, said Onyem. She said she'd asked Randy for a divorce 10 years prior, but they stayed together because he was the breadwinner of the family. Onyem, who met Randy when she was just 17, had been married for 28 years when they finally split up in February 2017. Her Pakistani family disowned her when she left the house at 18 years old just to live with him. With no support from her family, leaving Randy wouldn't be an easy task, so Onyem stayed for years, even though their relationship was abusive. They tried therapy, but it did little to no help, and he became more and more controlling as time went on. Because of her youth and inexperience, Onyem didn't immediately recognize that Randy was a controlling person. After being together for only a week, he demanded that she become a Christian, and she complied. 10 years after they got married, they welcomed Tiffany and Brittany into the family. When she first discovered that she was pregnant with twins, she was scared to tell Randy, who was hesitant to have any children, let alone 2 at once. Onyem says that despite the girls being twins, Brittany and Tiffany were opposites. Brittany was very outgoing, a member of the cheer squad and active in gymnastics. She worked in the bakery department at a local grocery store, and the staff described her as vibrant. She made friends very easily and loved life. Tiffany, on the other hand, tended to be more reserved, but would eventually open up and come out of her shell once she got to know a person. She had been working at a pet store and had a passion for animals. She was described as someone who would just light up a room with her smile and her personality. And she made people better just by knowing her. Brittany and Tiffany shared a love of music and going to concerts. Both girls were described as very sweet and kind-hearted. In 2015, Randy was diagnosed with depression and began taking an antidepressant. Weeks before the tragedy, Onyem said he was taking 2 to 3 antidepressants a day and drinking heavily. In February 2017, Onyem decided she was ready to leave him. The kids were old enough and could understand everything, Onyem said. We explained to them Mom and Dad are just not working out, and they understood that. When you're that miserable, it's hard to wait another year or another 2 years. Onyem moved down the street from her old apartment to a 1-bedroom condominium where she still lives today because she wanted to be close to her daughters. She let Brittany and Tiffany stay with their dad because they were comfortable in that apartment. She never thought she'd have to question their safety. Randall had been struggling with depression and financial difficulties, and there were reports of ongoing disputes between him and his ex-wife over child support payments. It is believed that these factors contributed to his state of mind leading up to the tragic events. On the morning of the murders, Onyem said that she began receiving long messages from Randy at work. It was a foreshadowing of the upcoming horrific incident. On March 10, 2017, Randall Coffland picked up his daughters for a visitation weekend. "I have secrets too," Randall wrote cryptically, inviting Onyem over to his apartment to learn more. "I said to him, 'You're scaring me. Why can't you just tell me right now?' Onyem said. He's like, 'No, you'll find out when you get here.'" At around 5 p.m. on March 10th, Onyem entered her old home. There, she saw Brittany lying on the couch, turned away from her. She noticed that she seemed oddly still. Before Onyem could approach her, Randy pointed a gun at her and shot her in the leg. "They're already dead," Randy told her. The next moments were documented in harrowing 911 calls placed by both Onyem, Randy, and their neighbor, released by the police after the crime. In his call, Randy confessed what he'd done. He could also be heard telling Onyem that he wanted her to live and suffer as he had. "I just shot and killed my 2 kids, and I shot my wife, and I'm going to kill myself now," Randy told the 911 operator. Responding officers arrived at the scene to find Brittany and Tiffany Coffland deceased from gunshot wounds, along with their father, who had turned the gun on himself. The incident shocked the community and left family, friends, and law enforcement devastated. Onyem Coffland called the police, begging for help for her 2 daughters. She said, "Oh my God, my husband shot my kids." She was so distressed that she couldn't remember her own address when the dispatchers asked. Her grief was staunch and she was inconsolable. She yelled both of her daughters' names and quieted with a sob, saying, "My girls are dead." The Brittany and Tiffany Coffland tragedy is proof that constant communication and understanding in a relationship are valid for navigating conflicts. And if it becomes violent and life-threatening, appropriate measures should be taken, otherwise things will go south. Their story took a wild narrative when the elephant in the room was accidentally let loose. It went on a rampage that resulted in an apparent murder-suicide. The girl's mother, who was shot in the leg, survived the killing spree. She is currently receiving treatment at the local Delnor Community Hospital and has been listed in stable condition. The body of one of the girls was found on a couch, while the other was shot in her bedroom. A 9mm handgun was found near Randall's body. However, the authorities are still investigating to determine if he owned the gun or borrowed it from someone else. The St. Charles Police Department was the primary agency that responded to the incident. Upon arrival, they secured the scene and initiated an investigation into the events leading up to the tragedy. The officers worked diligently to gather evidence and interview witnesses to understand the motives behind Randall Coffland's actions. The investigation revealed a history of domestic violence within the Coffland family. There were reports of multiple incidents involving physical altercations between Randall and Onyem Coffland during their marriage. Additionally, there were indications that Randall had been seeking help for his mental health issues and had been prescribed antidepressant medication. Earlier, on February 9th, the authorities recorded a distressed call from the Cofflands a few weeks before the killings. However, the report filed indicated that nothing physical happened, hence no arrests were made. Interestingly, the authorities have declined to release the February report, just like they did with the 911 calls, and have also shown no attempt to provide additional details about it. The Coffland family tragedy had a profound impact on the St. Charles community. The loss of 2 young lives sent shockwaves throughout the area, leaving friends, classmates, and neighbors in a state of grief and disbelief. Vigils and memorials were held to honor the memory of Brittany and Tiffany, with community members coming together to support one another during this difficult time. The aftermath of the tragedy prompted discussions about domestic violence, mental health, and the importance of community support systems. It served as a wake-up call for many to be more vigilant in recognizing signs of distress in others and providing the necessary resources for those in need. In the months following the tragedy, Onyem battled depression, suffered nightmares, and struggled to cope with the gaping hole that the deaths of her daughters left in her life. The mom said she had to make many decisions during her extreme grief, decisions she now regrets. Anyam chose to have everything in the apartment where the murders occurred thrown away. Get rid of everything, is what she told her friends. She said now she wishes she'd kept the girls' journals or some of their clothes. Anyam had confided in her friend Ahirn about the rocky marriage before the murders. The pair had met up and bonded over the fact that they were both from Pakistan and both separated from their husbands. Their friendship turned out to be essential for Anyam during her intense grief and still is to this day. I would go to her house at like 1 o'clock in the morning when she was having a breakdown, Ahirn said. No one was there to help her out. Being a mom of kids, I can't imagine that happening. Ahirn gave Anyam the keys to her house, and when she had bad dreams, Anyam would slip into her friend's bed and cry. She would have nightmares. She still does, Ahirn said. I told her there is no reason for her to ever have to be alone and handle this by herself. If there is still a tough night, she knows we can still call each other. The case of Brittany and Tiffany Coffland is a heartbreaking reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and untreated mental health issues. The tragedy not only claimed the lives of 2 innocent young girls, but also left a lasting impact on their families, friends, and the community. School officials made a statement on Facebook that Brittany and Tiffany were true saints undeserving of this tragedy. It serves as a call to action for society to address the underlying causes of such violence and to provide support systems for those who are struggling. The memory of Brittany and Tiffany Coffland will continue to live on, reminding us of the importance of compassion, understanding, and intervention in preventing similar tragedies in the future. What are your thoughts about the case of the Coffland family? Tell us in the comments section. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. This has been Crime Diaries, and until next time, don't be another statistic.